Paulette Gebara Farah was a 4-year-old disabled Mexican girl who disappeared on March 22, 2010 from her home in the Huixquilucan municipality in Mexico. Despite an extensive search effort by her family, friends and authorities, nobody could find her. But 9 days later, Paulette's body was discovered wedged between her mattress and the bed frame. No one had noticed she had been there all along, even after the bed was slept in. These suspicious circumstances prompted widespread speculation and debate. How did Paulette's body end up hidden in her own bed? And why did nobody notice for over a week? Welcome to Hell is Empty. If you're new here, consider subscribing. Paulette Gebara Farah was born prematurely at just 25 weeks. She had developmental disabilities that affected her speech and movement. She was dependent on her parents and 2 nannies for everything. Her parents were Mauricio, a successful businessman, and Lizette, who was a lawyer. Paulette had an older sister also named Lizette after their mother. On the night of March 21, 2010, Paulette returned to her family's apartment with her father and her older sister after a vacation. Her mother, Lizette, took a separate vacation with her friend and returned the same day as the rest of the family. She put the girls to bed that night. Paulette, who had motor and language disabilities, required special care and attention, and Lizette carried her to her bedroom. Each night, Lizette would make sure there was a pillow on either side of Paulette to prevent her from falling out of the bed. Everything was normal, and the family went to sleep. The following morning, on March 22nd, one of Paulette's nannies, Erica, went to wake Paulette for kindergarten, but she wasn't in her bed. She was missing. Erica immediately informed Lizette, and they began searching for the 4-year-old. Despite thorough searches of the apartment and surrounding building, Paulette was nowhere to be found. Erica said, "I looked for her in the bathroom, under the bed, and in the closet, but I couldn't find her and decided to search the parents' bedroom as well, then her sister's room, and then I searched her room once more." According to Erica, the parents weren't too concerned when she informed them that Paulette was missing. Lizette didn't jump out of bed right away, and instead Erica was left to search on her own. And Mauricio, the father, didn't contact police himself. Instead, he called his sister, Paulette's aunt, and she was the one who informed the local authorities. Eventually, police showed up. The initial search involved a detailed inspection of the apartment building, including the use of search and rescue dogs. But there was no signs of a break-in, theft, or kidnapping, and the locks, windows, and doors were all intact. Given Paulette's disabilities, her family knew she could not have left on her own, and this baffling situation led to an extensive search effort, and the surveillance footage did not show Paulette leaving the premises or being taken away by anyone, so she had to be in the apartment somewhere. But where? It's as if she vanished completely. When they couldn't find her, authorities released a missing person poster with Paulette's photo and detailed information about her age, appearance, and physical disabilities. Her aunt, Paulette, used email and social media to spread the case widely, prompting a large public response. Lizette appeared on television, pleading for her daughter's return and offering to accept her back without any consequences if the alleged abductor left her in a public place. Describing Paulette, Lizette said, "She is an angel. She is a beautiful little girl. She never cries, never throws tantrums. She's the sweetest." The family also distributed flyers, put up billboards, and placed adverts on television and public transport to spread the word. In an interview, Lizette said, "She's a special girl who needs her parents, who cannot survive on her own, who has a family that adores her and is willing to give up their own lives for her." During the first 2 days of the investigation, authorities failed to secure the scene and allowed relatives, friends, and the media to enter the apartment and potentially destroy evidence. Around 100 people trampled through Paulette's bedroom. If the parents were involved in her disappearance, then crucial evidence could have been destroyed. As the search continued, inconsistencies in the statements of Paulette's parents and nannies led to increased scrutiny and suspicion. On March 29th, the Attorney General announced that Paulette's parents and her nannies, Erica and Martha Casimiro, would be placed under a restriction order. He cited falsehoods and discrepancies in their statements, which complicated the investigation and hindered the authorities' efforts to establish a clear line of inquiry. He said, "Each one of them at a certain moment has falsified their statements, which has made it difficult to know the truth of the facts and clarify a firm line of investigation." Clearly, the Attorney General didn't trust that their story was the truth. Perhaps the family knew more than they had said. Perhaps they knew exactly where Paulette was. On March 30th, Paulette's parents spent several hours at the police station before being transferred to a hotel to comply with the restriction order. That same day, police experts placed blankets at the home for a reconstruction of the events, attempting to piece together what happened the night of Paulette's disappearance. It was that night that the police made a shocking discovery. In the early hours of March 31st, around 2 a.m., Paulette's body was found in her bedroom, wrapped in sheets between the mattress and the bed frame at the foot of the bed. This discovery was inexplicable, considering previous searches had included the bedroom. How was Paulette not discovered there on the first day she went missing? Authorities said the body was discovered due to the smell of decay, which had become noticeable. In the video, a voice is heard saying she was beaten while examining the stained sheets, which they probably thought was blood, but is more likely that it's bodily fluids from decomposition. But the mind-boggling circumstances of the discovery led many people to believe that Lisette killed her own daughter and tried to make it look like an accident. Surely Paulette would not have been there in her own bed without people noticing. Surely the parents had to have placed her there at a later date. When describing Lisette the mother, Sandra Yedem, a legal psychiatric expert working with investigators, told a news conference, "We have before us a lawyer, intelligent, bold, astute. She has always remained very distant in matters of affection and emotional attachment. She has lied. In short, there are characteristics that speak of a mental disorder." But these observations do not prove anything. Some people are not outwardly emotional, and just because someone has a mental illness doesn't make them a murderer. People react to death in many different ways, and just because Lisette is not outwardly emotional doesn't mean that she had anything to do with her daughter's death. An autopsy revealed that Paulette had an orthopedic cloth over her mouth, which was used nightly to prevent her from sleeping with her mouth open. The autopsy also confirmed that her body had not been manipulated after her death, and that she had eaten at least 5 hours before dying. The examination found 2 segments of rectangular adhesive cloth in a vertical position on both cheeks, and signs of a blow to her left elbow and knee. Despite these findings, the official report indicated no signs of physical or sexual violence. It was concluded that Paulette had died between March 21st and March 26th, and died from mechanical asphyxia due to the obstruction of the nasal cavities and thorax-abdominal compression. Bodily fluid stains on Paulette's body corresponded to stains found on the bed frame, suggesting that she had died there. The autopsy established that Paulette's death occurred between 5 and 9 days before the analysis, suggesting she could have died on the first day of her disappearance. The report also found no traces of drugs or toxic substances that could have affected her consciousness. The conclusion was that Paulette, by her own means, moved on the bed and accidentally fell headlong into a space at the foot of the bed, where she died of asphyxiation and remained unnoticed for 9 days. Following the discovery of Paulette's body, a series of legal and procedural actions took place. On April 3rd, Lisette initiated an amparo proceeding against the restriction order, claiming she had not been involved in her daughter's death. Specialists diagnosed Lisette with personality disorders, and during the proceedings she became subject to indictment. On April 4th, a judge granted freedom to Paulette's parents and nannies, lifting the restriction order. However, they were prohibited from leaving the country while the investigation continued. But the discovery of Paulette created a rift between the parents. On April 5th, in separate interviews, Maurizio suggested that the death could not have been a simple accident, and Lisette sobbed as she expressed she didn't know why her husband blamed her for Paulette's death. She talked about Paulette's disabilities that affected her speech and movement on the left side of her body, but she said Paulette had made progress with therapy and was able to feed herself, climb stairs, and use the bathroom on her own. Some people have speculated that Lisette was fed up of caring for her daughter and killed her, but Lisette insisted she never considered caring for her daughter a burden. She said, "She was always a fighter. Nobody could believe what that girl had achieved." On April 6th, Paulette was buried in Mexico City. Her father did not attend. The funeral procession was led by Lisette, with no members of the Gebara family in attendance due to an agreement. The following day, the Gebara family denied Lisette's request to see her own daughter, who had been staying with her father's family since April 4th. On May the 10th, the Attorney General of the Federal District, who was also involved in the case, granted custody of Paulette's sister to the mother, who then filed a complaint against her husband for custody of Lizette. On May 26th, Alberto Bazbaz resigned from his position as Attorney General of the State of Mexico, citing a loss of confidence due to the public and media scrutiny over his handling of Paulette's case. 7 years later, on May 3rd, 2017, Paulette's body was exhumed and cremated, as the authorities determined her remains were no longer needed for the investigation. The case of Paulette Gebara Farah remains shrouded in controversy and mystery. Numerous inconsistencies and suspicious elements have fueled public speculation and debate. Paulette's nannies, Erica and Martha Casimiro, maintain that the girl's body was not under the mattress when they initially searched. Martha stated, "I looked in the bathroom, under the bed and in the closet. I saw that she was not there, and I also went into the bedroom of the parents to look for her, to the bedroom of the other girl, and from there we started looking for her again, and I went back to look for her in the bedroom." Erica said, "In fact, if it had been like that, I think we would have noticed. Since thousands of people came to look for her, the bed was made. I never saw the mattress pulled back. I did not see a bundle or anything. It does not make sense to me that the body could have been there since Monday." While it's strange that the nannies couldn't find Paulette even after making up the bed several times, it's even stranger that Amanda de la Rosa, a close friend of Lizette Farah, slept in Paulette's room, which had not been secured by the authorities. During her stay, the bed was made daily by the nannies, and no one noticed Paulette's body. Amanda was also investigated, but was not charged. She later wrote a book called Where's Paulette, in which she narrated her perspective of the events and questioned the discrepancies between the facts and the authorities' statements. On the night that authorities tried to create a reenactment of events leading up to the disappearance, they pressed record on a video camera, and Paulette's body was discovered shortly after. But this video showing the discovery of Paulette's body raised significant doubts about its authenticity. Many people have questioned if authorities really discovered Paulette or knew she was there before filming started. In the video, forensic experts are seen entering Paulette's room at 2 a.m, taking measurements and making observations. One expert is heard saying she was severely beaten before any evidence was found. The video shows another expert removing the bed's blanket to reveal what seems like bloodstains, and eventually Paulette's body. But as I said, this is probably just bodily fluid stains. Critics argue that the video appeared staged, as the experts did not seem surprised upon finding the body and continued their activities as if following a script. But these are professionals, and they probably do this every single day. I don't know what kind of reaction people are expecting from them. The unusual timing of the recording, typically done during the day, also added to the suspicion. Why would they do this at 2 a.m? Since Paulette was last seen at night, it does make sense that they would want to do the reenactment when it's dark out. The Attorney General used the video to support the accidental death conclusion, avoiding any mention of violence despite the initial comments that Paulette had been beaten. If this video wasn't enough to raise suspicion, there was another piece of evidence. During the investigation, a recording surfaced in which Paulette's mother, Lizette, instructed her older daughter to remain silent about Paulette's disappearance. In the recording, Lizette is heard saying, "Because otherwise they will blame us for stealing her or that you took her away to another place." This raised questions about Lizette's knowledge of the events and whether she had something to hide. However, it could simply be that Lizette knew that parents are usually the number one suspect in a child's death, and she didn't want her older daughter saying anything that might cause authorities to blame them for something they didn't do. But another controversial element was Paulette's pajamas. In a televised interview held in Paulette's bedroom shortly before her body was found, Lizette was holding pajamas identical to those Paulette was found wearing. Doubters suspect that Lizette had hidden Paulette somewhere and dressed her in these pajamas before placing her where she was discovered. When questioned about this, Lizette claimed the pajamas belonged to her older daughter, that they both had the same pajamas. This discrepancy fueled speculation that the investigation was mishandled and that key details were overlooked or concealed. But in the video where Lizette is speaking Spanish, Lizette is saying that her older daughter also had the same pajamas, and she was simply showing on camera what Paulette was last seen wearing. When Lizette heard the news that Paulette had been found, she said, "It was the last thing I wanted to hear. All I know is that I lost my little angel." Paulette's death was ruled an accident. Children do sleep in weird positions and move around a lot in their beds. Since a pillow was placed either side of Paulette, the only place she could move in her bed was down towards the gap. This gap between the mattress and the bed frame was 15 centimeters and large enough for Paulette to fall into. Her physical disabilities could have prevented her from climbing out, and the cloth placed on her face to stop her mouth breathing could have aided in her suffocating to death. In the photo taken the morning of Paulette's disappearance, we can see that the gap, which would usually be visible, is no longer there. Instead, there is a bulge. There is something filling this gap. But what's shocking is that no one bothered to look there. The nannies claim to have made up the bed each day after it was slept in by the family friend, but they must have only made it up at the top near the pillows. It seems unlikely that Paulette would go unnoticed for days. However, the photo clearly shows there is no longer a gap between the mattress and the bed frame, so Paulette was likely there from day one. But why didn't the police, parents and nannies do a thorough search of the room for her? Had they stripped the bed, they would have found her immediately.